Hi, I'm Kenny Klaus, and this is State 48 Homeowner.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the State 48 Homeowner Podcast. And over the last couple months, we've occasionally talked about some different things than just regular home ownership. We've talked about some of the things that we can do smart to make the most of our home ownership, to make the most of our home, and to make some really, really smart financial decisions and set ourselves up for success in the future. And so I've got a couple friends with me. I've got Christine Matthews from the Klaus Team. How you doing, Christine?
Hi, great.
And we have Caroline Kelly, who is a financial coach. How are you?
Great. Hi. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys actually know each other because you were Christine's coach, weren't you?
Yes. She still is my coach.
I'm still her coach.
And, I know we've celebrated some really cool things, not only with you, Christine, but some other of our clients that have met with coaches that have, some people have done things. I don't know if they did them on their own or with a coach, but, when we are able to celebrate where somebody meets with a lender and realizes they're a long way off in their home ownership goals, or somebody that just wants to get to that next level of their credit score, or just people that we've helped them find a home and they're just, hey, I want to not live paycheck to paycheck. I want to not be always thinking about my finances with and causing myself an ulcer.
Yes.
But we're able to learn how to always be thinking about our finances, but in a more healthy way.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, what brought you guys together? How did you meet?
I was in a situation where I thought I needed some help and an outlet to talk to somebody as well about my finances. And I went to Ramsey Solutions because we're an ELP, endorsed local provider. And they hook you up with 3 coaches. And I talked to 2 and didn't feel like it was going to be a great fit. And I talked to Caroline, and I think we talked over an hour. I pulled over to the side of the road and we just talked and set up an appointment to meet, and just we hit it off, and she understood where I was coming from, single mom, and we shared some things, and that's how we met. So it was like February of 2020, I believe, just before the pandemic.
Just before the pandemic, You reached out and we just had that conversation about some goals you had. You had some goals you wanted to meet, and you couldn't really see the forest through the trees, I think is the best way to say that, Scott, is you couldn't see beyond today. I think that's really where it was at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that's safe to say that.
Yeah. I was overwhelmed and needed some advice and some direction. And sometimes, people tell you things, but you don't hear it until you hear it from somebody else that's objective. And so,
So when you're in that zone, you've got moments of pretty strong stress. So now you put in a lot of work.
Yes.
Put in a lot of time, change some habits. We talked through that on one of the previous podcasts on some things that I had done too. And what's that stress level like now?
There isn't much of a stress level. You just feel free. You feel, empowered. You feel, like you can do anything. If an emergency pops up, I'll call her sometime and tell her about a medical bill, and she says, Isn't it great that you now have an emergency fund?
Yeah.
So it's liberating. It does take work. It does. And the habits is a big word. Yeah. Changing your habits and, paying off your debt. It's an emotional thing.
I think a lot of people, we often talk about limiting beliefs, and I think a lot of people have limiting beliefs that either they'll hear stories of people who have come out of that high stress level of living day to day, month to month, of check to check. And they go, okay, that wouldn't work for me because my situation is X. Yeah. Or they'll say, it worked for them because they now have no joy in their life because they never spend money, or C, they must have gotten a really big promotion at work and much more salary. Yeah. Are any of those things true?
No. I mean, even if you did get your big promotion and, your big raise, you need to know what to do with that money when it comes in.
Yes.
You need to know, you're not just going to go buy a new car or go on vacation or blow it. You need to know what to do with that money when it comes in.
Yeah. Caroline, you've said it before that you get that raise. Yes. What happens to your expenses?
When you add a zero to your income, you add a zero to your debt.
Yeah. And now, was there a point in your life that you said, this wouldn't work for me because of my situation?
A little bit. She gave me suggestions, and I pushed back on a couple of those suggestions. And budget was a bad word for me. Yeah. You think to yourself, well, why budget if you have more outgo than income?
Yeah. If more is coming in than going out, you must be doing fine.
You got more month than money.
Yeah.
But it's a change of your behavior, a change of your habits. You need to know where your money's going.
Yes.
And if you're getting that big promotion and you think, okay, life's going to be perfect now, you need to, are you putting it in savings? Are you paying down debt? What are you doing?
Right.
And if you're married, you need to talk to your spouse about it as well.
The Klaus Team is different. With the Klaus Team, you have someone on your side. Where you live and make memories is important. We have more unique strategies than anyone else to help you accomplish what matters most to you. We can help you with traditional real estate as well as other options such as our lease purchase programs. We can help you buy first then sell, and we can bring you instant offers. We're here to help our neighbors achieve the American dream and help them build wealth through home ownership. For more info or to start your home search, visit us online at klausteam.com.
I think really the big thing about money is it amplifies what already exists. So money amplifies what exists. If you don't know how to manage a small amount, you can't manage a large amount, right? If you're unhappy, money isn't going to change that, right? And what's that underlying here that can be done? And in certain situations, what do you want this to look like, right? I think it's a big part, especially in the beginning of a journey with somebody, is they can't see what it would look like. They don't know it will be okay. You only can be financially sound if you make X dollars, because those are all situations that become easy to say why you can't do it. But really, those are myths. The truth is everyone's life's going to look different. Yes, we're all individuals. We all like different things. We all look differently. Everything's going to be that way. But the big part here is your life gets to be yours. And when you change your behavior with your finances, you have time and money to do what you love.
Yeah.
And that's a big part here.
It's telling your money where to go.
It's telling your money where to go and knowing where it goes rather than your money, your life telling you what to do.
So if I'm sitting there and I'm either at that point where there's more coming in than going out, I must be doing fine. Or B, I'm really close to as much as going out as is coming in.
Yes.
Or I'm a little behind. What are the steps? What does it take? Because I think a lot of people go, oh, a home budget, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So how do I get from just swiping everywhere I go and living without thought to having a grinded down home budget that I live to?
I think a big part of that is to understand that personal finance is simple. The problem is the behavior change is hard.
Okay.
So, there's a big saying, as a Ramsey coach, Dave Ramsey says it is finances are 20% numbers, 80% behavior. And when we go with the behavior end of this, that's the hardest part. on the first few months of a budget because you don't think it's going to work. You don't know what's going to happen. And a budget isn't this thing, like Christine said, of a 4-letter word. That's this horrible thing. What it is a roadmap of where you're going. And if you don't like what the roadmap shows, change the roadmap. And that's a big part of this on personal finance. So I think that that's the biggest misconception people have, is this is doable. Now, everyone's income level, everyone's expenses and where they are, if you're close or you're behind, then it's when we sit down and have some really good heart-to-heart talks. And it's not, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. In conversation we've had in the past, it's just walking through together and saying, what does this look like for you? Now,
and I was just going to say that, because you'll ask me a question and I'll answer, and you'll say, well, what does that look like to you?
Yes.
What this extra money or this lack of money or this bill or whatever, what does that look like? And what does your goal look like? And things like that. So, and
that's a big part of this is what does it look like for you? And if somebody is making more money, sometimes they can get, if they can change the behavior, they can get out a little quicker than someone making a little less money. Everyone's journey is different, but I've had people who bring home $30,000 a month or $30,000 a year. And the $30,000 a year was more successful than $30,000 a month. It's really the behavior part of who you are and what change you want to make.
And really, I think a lot of people think that it takes a heck of a long time to change behaviors. And yet when we look at habits, so many studies show that the round number that we like to use is 66 days.
It is.
In 66 days, you can completely change a habit and make it feel like it's something normal.
Correct.
And so, there's been things that we as a team, we said, well, we want to start doing this other thing. We've got a little chart that we can throw up on the wall, and it's got 66 days, and you just X out there. If you're wanting to, you get a Peloton, you want to make sure that you're using it every day. You put the little thing on the wall, 66 days. At the end of 66 days, you're not even thinking about, do I need to go and exercise? Do I need to do this? Do I need to call these people? It just becomes second nature because it's that quick for a habit to be built. And the studies on habits are crazy. Charles Duhigg has a book called The Power of Habit.
Yes.
And he looks at a guy that had lost his memory, short-term memory and long-term memory. Yeah. And every day was kind of new, like the movie Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. Yeah. But he was still able to do some things like go on walks and come back, and he knew where he lived. And because it had been so ingrained in his life before he had his incident where he lost his memory that it stuck with him. And habit will stick where memories don't is so incredible. And so it's all we got to do is change those habits, and it stops being work. It's work for those 66 days. But once we get past that, and we talked in previous conversations too, that we have to have that intentionality. Yes. If we have the intentionality and put in the time to build that new habit, we're going to stay there. The problem is we can lose that intentionality at any time and go back to our old habits.
Yeah. And there is, one of the things I utilize in coaching is the process of Atomic Habits, the book Atomic Habits, where it talks about the plane that takes off, and it's 3% off. At takeoff will be 200, it goes across the country, it's 250 miles away from its destination. So that little change in the positive aspect, if you make a 3% change right now today, down the road in 66 days or 90 days, you are going to be way in a different direction than the course you are on for the good, because it's a good pivot, right? Yeah. And this is a big part of it. The willingness to change, the willingness to want it, and having that why that we've talked about before, and making that why bigger is that carrot that dangles out there for you to make the change enticing. And when you have a person will make change when it's more fun to change than to stay where you are at.
And I can tell you, some of the most fun is when you do make a change in your habit. And you start to, you may not see that you may still be paycheck to paycheck, but all of a sudden something's changed in there. We didn't use the credit card this month.
Yeah.
Or, we didn't do fast food, or all these little things, and wow, I actually did that. And I know that you guys work on baby steps a lot.
Yes.
And that's the joy, is you accomplish that little baby step and then you move on. So let's talk about the steps that you'll take in creating a home budget.
Okay. Well, I'm one to utilize the home budget as a coaching tool. So we utilize that first. But go ahead, talk about your experience with the budget.
Well, we first did it on paper when we met.
Yes, we did.
I think it was 1 or 2 times. I can't remember. But we just did it on paper. And the big thing is just realizing what you're spending. I was just petrified to write everything out on what I was spending.
Yeah.
And then we changed it over to the Ramsey EveryDollar app, and we connected it to my checking account. So every transaction that came in, I could put it into a category. And the great thing about having a coach is she gives you ideas and makes you think, and gives you ideas about, or makes you think ahead, like, oh, okay, I've got my real estate dues coming up in 4 months. Yes. Well, what does that look like?
What does that look like in 4 months? Well, it's a spike.
Yeah.
4 months from now, you've got X dollars. Or each month, you pull out a little.
Yeah. Or your car tags.
Yes.
Or surgeries. Or dental work. Or, anything like that. She helps you see down the road and plan for those things. Because when you're at your worst, or getting, people have it worse than I do, obviously. When, you're digging out, you don't see it. You don't see it. You don't see that it's possible. And having a coach gives you hope, gives you direction, gives you ideas. I mean, you gave me a couple of ideas that it took probably 6 months before I implemented them. And after I did, I was like so excited. Why wasn't I listening, earlier?
Yes, that conversation did happen. But the thing is during that 6-month period, she needed to come to that, right? And as a coach, it's there and the seed's planted. And the conversations are had. So she grows till she's ready. And she's like, why didn't I do this before? I said, you weren't ready.
Yeah.
Now you are, and look how it did for you.
And I never thought, I couldn't see the end of paying off my debt. I really couldn't. No, I couldn't see to get to baby step 3 of having a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. That I couldn't even comprehend that.
Yeah.
And how much life is different when you have an emergency fund and you have a buffer between what you spend and what you bring in, that you're not going to the extreme that you're not just scraping by, and that when something happens, it's okay. I've got money there. Yeah. I'll have to rebuild it, but I've got money there. It's just a complete mind shift.
It is a complete different feeling. I can't even express to you the different feeling. I mean, before I met Caroline and I needed a new tire, and they're like, you need 3 new tires and we shouldn't let you walk out of here. And it was like, what am I going to do? I had a couple of options, but it just gave you that sinking, no hope feeling. And then, you get your emergency fund, you start to pay off your debt, and it's empowerment.
Yeah.
It gives you options. You're empowered. You don't have to worry if, the dog gets sick and you have to go to the vet and pay $400
and you're also not putting yourself in a hole. Most people that, a normal consumer that gets into that situation has nowhere else to turn than to put it on a credit card that they can't pay off by the end of the month. Right. And now that $450 vet bill is going to be $1,600.
Right. Yeah. And that's a big part of this is you get a flat on the side of the road. Okay. You can get taken care of. It's a minor inconvenience. It's a pain. It's on the side of the road in the freeway or whatever, but it's taken care of. You've got it, the money factor isn't there anymore. Yeah. It's just getting it done and it being an inconvenience.
And how am I going to get through the rest of this day? How am I going to get through the rest of this week? Because my tire went flat.
Yeah.
that should not be a life-ending situation.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yet for some people it is. So as they look at their expenses and what comes in, how do you get from, this is how I'm living my life,
right,
to now I'm working within a budget that is making sense? Are we cutting things right out the gate? Are we, what are we doing?
I'm the kind of coach. I'm not going to be like, okay, 3 months from now, we're going to start this. We started the first time we had our conversation. The first coaching session we had, she left with a complete budget, understanding where she was, and discussion of where you wanted to be. And is this in line with where you want to be? And her answer was no. And then she looked at it and said, I need to get rid of this. I need to get rid of this. And she realized these are the things holding me back. And we started there. And then we kept going through time, month after month, through time of, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, are you moving towards your goals? Yes. Oh, wait a minute. This happened in life right now, but life didn't happen to me because I was able to fix it this way. At first, it's how do I fix it? But as clients start to really take control and clarity of their finances, they fix it. And they're like, look what I did. And I'm like, good job.
Yeah.
How'd that feel? Right. Because that's the coaching.
And it's, you always talk about the wins,
Yes.
when you're doing the debt snowball and you pay off that first credit card.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't have, people have 5,000, some people have 100,000 in credit card debt. I didn't have a ton,
Yes.
but just the feeling of paying off that first credit card.
Oh, I know. You came in my office and
Did I?
Yeah, you're like, I got the first credit card to zero. And we celebrated.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even explain the feeling.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, I had that goal.
It was one of the biggest smiles I've ever seen on your face.
I had that goal and I paid it off, and it was like, the little wins. You need the little wins.
And you paid it off faster than you thought what you would.
Yeah.
You paid it way faster than you thought you would. And outside of it, I could see she had the ability to do that, but she couldn't see it. So as we went through the process, part of what I do is just managing that process of watching them, make sure they're going, because they're moving in that direction. Then they get to see it and have that aha, right? Because I could have told her a lot of things, but she wasn't going to hear it because she needed to experience it. She needed to see it, and she needed to gain the confidence and clarity. She had the skill. She was learning the skills to help her in the right direction.
Yeah.
Now I know there's some free tools out there.
Yes, there are.
That help people. A couple of the most popular ones are Mint and EveryDollar.
Yes.
So let's talk about those.
Okay.
I know they have their strengths, either one of them, but the main concept of them is we're just keeping track right on our phone.
We're keeping track. There's mobile on both, I believe.
Yeah.
So there's mobile on both of them, and there is also internet access. So you can use it on a laptop, looks a little bit bigger and stuff like that. But those are day-to-day functions to say, this is what we have planned for food this month, X dollars. And when you go to the grocery store, you can say, this is X dollars we've planned this month. This is X dollars we've spent this month. When I walk in the store,
and in which categories?
Right, in the category. So for grocery, it's, let's say you have just $400 for a number for here. So it's $400 and it's month 2 and you've got $200 left. You're like, we only have $200 to get through the next 2 weeks. So here you go. What are we when you go in that grocery store, you're not looking for all the extras because you're now focused on staying in within the goal. And you can't.
You're walking past the end caps and the impulse racks.
Yes, the impulse racks. Yes, those little.
I tell you, the best tools for me was like Walmart grocery pickup, or Fry's has, I can't think of the name of it right now, but you put in exactly what you need. You're not walking up and down the aisles and this is how much I have to spend. Yeah. You click, you go pick it up. It's not only saving me time, but I got the necessities and
what's nice when you order like that, or when you go in intentional, you are training yourself to not look at the end caps, not look at the impulse racks, not look at eye level. The stuff they want you to buy is all at eye level.
Yes.
Now, some of us have different eye level than others.
Yes.
But it's just that same area. if you start looking down, looking up, you'll start to see some better deals for you and some better ways to spend your money.
Absolutely. And looking at different stores around the area that really can give you a difference. Some stores are higher priced than others. One of the best things I've ever seen, this is where intentionality kicks into the budget, right? When we start the first budget you ever do is like, you're putting down what you think is going on. The first month you ever do a budget, you're putting down what you think. And when you use these apps and see where you're really spending, there is such a eye-opening of, we thought we spent $800 a month on groceries. We're spending $1,600 a month. You're paying a mortgage on groceries. Yeah. And that's when we start to refocus and say, okay,
you better be eating steak and lobster if you're paying a mortgage on groceries.
Yeah.
Oh
and I've used several other budget apps, and I love the EveryDollar because you can do it on your phone, because the transactions come through linked to your checking account. And then I'll go into the laptop or PC, the web version of it, and gives me the bigger picture. And it also has your debt snowball if you have debt. Prioritizing payments. And honestly, I was petrified of doing the first budget, because I tried it before and it didn't it didn't work. So
the biggest thing about a budget, and it's great to do one and everything, but simplifying that budget and keeping that personal finance simple to, here's our plan to get us in line with our goals, here's what we're doing. 2 things. Simple. Where are you planning your money to drive you to where you want to be? And are you in line with that? And if you're not, what needs to change? That's a big part about these tools. Yeah.
Christine, we talk about, making some decisions on, should I take this vacation or should I not, when we're getting started on our budget, but sometimes we can budget for that. So tell us about your last vacation.
We got back a week ago or so from Hawaii, and I budgeted for that trip and I paid cash, and we had an amazing time.
And that's awesome. And, I know that Caroline, we had said, let's get together and record this podcast. Christine, when you came back from Hawaii, we just kind of told you were going to be on the podcast with us. But thank you so much for both of you for being here. Caroline, if people want to take that next step, I know there's a lot of things people can do by themselves, but if they want that key piece of accountability, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. They can log on. They can go on to ramseycoach.com/fit financial coaching, or they can go ahead and call or text me at 602-909-0112.
Thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for spending time with us this week at State 48 Homeowner, the ins and outs of owning an Arizona home. You can connect with us for more information, submit topics you'd like us to further discuss. You can see relevant videos, give us feedback, answer your real estate questions, and more at state48homeowner.com.